The room went dark the moment Captain Eric Voss stepped inside. Not the kind of darkness that hides behind night, but the heavy, waiting kind that feels alive. A single beam of white light cut through the void, falling on him like a spotlight. Around him, a circle of alien faces shimmered faintly, their glassy eyes glowing blue in the gloom. The scent of ozone hung in the air. "Captain Eric Voss," one of them said, voice smooth and cold. "Human representative. Terran Alliance. You are here to undergo the simulation of fear." Voss tilted his head slightly, lips curling into a half-smile. "You mean your version of a stress test? Sounds fun." The aliens didn't smile. They never did. These were the Vrain, an insectoid race of scientists who lived by logic alone. To them, fear was a weakness, something to be measured, dissected, and cured. And tonight, they were going to measure humanity. Voss stood straight, his black combat armor gleaming under the beam. His eyes, sharp and gray like forged steel, flicked from one alien to another. He'd seen fear before, on battlefields, in the eyes of soldiers who thought they were going to die. But this was theater. The lights shifted. The air turned cold. A low rumble filled the chamber, the sound of something alive, something breathing. Then came the voice of Professor Villar, head of the academy. "Begin the test." The walls changed. Panels slid open, revealing massive screens that surrounded him completely. The dark chamber became a jungle, dense, alien, and soaked in mist. The air was thick and humid. Somewhere far away, an animal screamed. Voss turned in place slowly. "Impressive holographics," he murmured. A low growl rolled through the air, deep enough to vibrate his chest. Then another, then several. Shapes moved between the trees, glowing eyes catching faint light. The aliens outside the simulation leaned forward in fascination. They monitored his vitals, heart rate steady, pupils normal. He wasn't reacting the way he should. They adjusted the settings. The growls turned into roars. Massive shadows burst from the trees. Creatures with scales, claws, and teeth as long as knives. Their bodies moved like serpents, their eyes burning with primal hunger. The jungle came alive with sound. Voss just smiled. He crouched slightly, studying one of the beasts as it circled him. "Too much bass in the roar," he said aloud. "And the gate's wrong. That's supposed to be a pounce, not a crawl." The aliens exchanged confused glances. He was analyzing their predators. Then one lunged. Voss didn't move. The beast's jaws stopped inches from his face, its teeth frozen mid-bite. The simulation paused. A voice echoed through the chamber. "Subject shows no measurable fear. Increase intensity." The scene changed again. The jungle vanished. Now Voss stood in a dark valley under a blood-red sky. Hundreds of creatures prowled the ridges, their roars echoing like thunder. He crossed his arms. Nice color grading. Bit dramatic, though. The Vrain whispered among themselves. "His emotional suppression is abnormal. Are humans incapable of fear?" Voss chuckled softly. "Oh, we feel fear. We just stopped letting it drive." The ground shook. The beast began to close in from all sides, forming a ring of teeth and fury. One of the aliens hissed to another, "Activate full immersion. Remove safety limiters." The next second, Voss felt heat. Real heat. The creatures were no longer holograms. They were matter, solid and breathing. The simulation had crossed into physical space. The Vrain wanted to see what would happen when a human finally broke. Voss flexed his hands, feeling sweat bead across his brow. So that's how it's going to be. The first predator lunged. He moved like a soldier who'd fought for too many years to waste emotion. He sidestepped, grabbed a fallen metal branch from the simulated ground, and slammed it into the creature's skull. The beast collapsed, dissolving into sparks. Another came, then 3 more. The air filled with the sound of claws, scraping metal, and the crackle of energy. Voss fought without panic, without hesitation. Every movement was efficient, every strike measured. The Vrain Council watched in silence. They had expected fear. Instead, they saw adaptation. "This is extraordinary," murmured Vilar. "He's not reacting with panic. He's calculating." Inside the simulation, Voss grunted as another creature lunged for him. He ducked, slammed a knee into its jaw, and twisted the branch like a blade. The holographic predator shattered into glowing shards that evaporated in the mist. The human turned toward the empty air. "If this is your idea of a fear test," he said breast-steady, "you should have picked a different species." The sound system hissed. Then the voice of Vilar came through. "What does humanity fear, Captain?" He looked up at the blood-red sky. For a moment his expression shifted. Just a flicker of something deeper. "Losing what we care about," he said softly. "That's our real predator." The simulation flickered. The word struck something inside the aliens' minds, something they hadn't anticipated. Empathy. The jungle disappeared. The room returned to darkness. The test was over, or so Voss thought. As he removed his helmet, the lights dimmed again. A deep hum filled the air, different from before. He turned toward the glass wall, but the aliens were gone. Only one voice remained, echoing through the speakers. "Captain Voss, Phase 2 begins now." The floor shifted beneath his feet. The walls melted away into a new world, colder, darker, and far too real. He reached for his weapon. "Yeah," he muttered. Knew it was too easy. The floor under Captain Eric Voss split apart, unfolding like the iris of a great mechanical eye. He fell not fast, not freely, but slowly, as though the air itself wanted to study him. When his boots touched down, the world was already changing. Gone were the holographic jungles and artificial skies. Now he stood on an endless metallic plain beneath a black void. Above him hung fragments of alien structures, floating ruins drifting in circles like vultures. Every surface reflected faint light, each reflection bending, rippling, alive. A low voice, the same calm tone as before, echoed across the expanse. "Phase 2, psychological inversion. Subject will face an evolved projection of self." Voss frowned. "An evolved what now?" The metallic ground rippled, forming a mirror. His reflection stared back. Armor gleaming, stand steady, eyes sharp, but then it moved on its own. The reflection smiled, just a little too wide. "Welcome back." "Captain," it said, "you've been teaching aliens about fear. Let's see if you've learned anything yourself." Voss tightened his jaw. "So that's your next trick, huh? Show me a prettier version of myself." The mirrored figure laughed, a sound so familiar it sent a chill through him. "Prettier? No, just more honest." Then the reflection stepped out of the mirror. Metal dripped off it like liquid glass, forming a perfect copy. Same scars, same gray eyes, same confident posture. But there was something colder about it, something detached. Voss raised his weapon. "Cute." The clone tilted its head. "You think fear is something you can laugh at. You think control makes you invincible. Worked so far." The clone's eyes glowed faintly blue. "Then let's see what happens when control breaks." The world around them shifted. The metallic floor shattered into fragments, each piece floating in a vast abyss. Now, they stood on a narrow platform suspended over nothing. Every breath Voss took echoed like thunder. The clone attacked. Fast, impossibly fast. Blades of light extended from its wrists, clashing with Voss's plasma baton in a burst of sparks. The blows came hard and rhythmic, each one perfectly timed. Every move Voss made, the copy mirrored and improved. You can't win against yourself, it said between strikes. You're predictable. Maybe, Voss grunted, blocking a downward slash. But I'm also stubborn. He twisted, disarming his opponent for half a second. But the clone moved like water, reforming the weapon out of thin air. The brain watched from unseen chambers, their notes pouring into endless data streams. The human is not simply resisting, one whispered. He's adapting in real time. Another hissed. No, he's evolving. The battle raged across the floating fragments. Every strike echoed into the void, every spark lighting brief flashes of emotion in Voss's face. Anger, focus, pain, something almost like regret. Why are you fighting? The clone asked suddenly. Why keep proving yourself to creatures who will never understand you? Voss hesitated and took a hit across the shoulder. He stumbled, armor sparking. Because someone has to, he spat, recovering. Because they'll keep testing until we give them an answer they can't measure. The clone smirked. And what answer is that? Voss lunged forward and slammed his blade into the clone's chest. That we don't break, even when we should. The reflection staggered, flickering. You think pain is meaning. That's not bravery. That's delusion. Voss grabbed it by the collar, pulling it close. Maybe, but it's ours. The clone's face rippled, glitching. For a split second, it looked older, scarred, tired. The illusion broke. The battlefield dissolved into white light. The voice of the architects filled the void again. Observation. The subject displays contradiction as strength. Emotional instability weaponized. Voss dropped to one knee, exhausted. Glad to hear my breakdown is useful to your science project. Phase 2 complete, the voice said. Prepare for cognitive reflection. Reflection? He muttered. Didn't we just do that? The ground trembled. The floating ruins above began to rearrange, walls twisting into massive archways that stretched for miles. Through them, he saw glimpses of Earth, but not as he remembered it. Cities burned. Skies turned to dust. Shadows of humanity walked silently through the ruins. Phase 3, said the voice, will test your loyalty to what you fear losing most. The illusion solidified, and standing in the middle of it, under the ruined sky, was a figure he hadn't seen in years. A woman with auburn hair, wearing a Terran Alliance uniform. She smiled softly. Hello, Eric. His breath caught in his throat. Lyra? Simulation integrity locked, said the architects. Emotional trigger confirmed. Voss stepped forward slowly, disbelief twisting inside him. She looked real, too real. The same eyes, the same small scar on her cheek from that outpost raid on Vega 9. But Lyra was dead. The clone behind him whispered in his voice. You can fight monsters all day, Eric. But what happens when the thing you fear most isn't out there? It leaned close, its words cold as steel. It's what you left behind. Voss froze. The alien ruins glowed brighter, reshaping into the ghost of Earth itself. Lyra reached out a hand, smiling with warmth that hurt to look at. Come home, she said. The lights flickered. His weapon felt suddenly heavy. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. For the first time, Captain Eric Voss didn't know if this was the world around Captain Eric Voss shimmered, like a dream, trying not to fall apart. The ruined city stretched endlessly, half metal, half memory, with fragments of skyscrapers floating in midair. Fires burned soundlessly in the distance, their embers glowing blue instead of orange. And standing in the middle of that ghostly world was her, Lyra Hale, his second in command, the woman he lost 3 years ago on Vega 9. Her presence hit him like gravity. The slight tilt of her head, the softness in her eyes. It was all there, too perfect. Too cruel. Lyra, he whispered. She smiled. You never came back for me, Eric. He froze. His voice caught somewhere between defense and disbelief. That's not possible. You're not real. You can't be. Her expression didn't change. Then why are you shaking? The architect's voice, calm and surgical, echoed through the burning city. Phase 3. Emotional anchor detected. Observe. Human empathy overrides logic. Shut up, Voss growled. The voice ignored him. Memory integration successful. Begin stimulus amplification. The city trembled. The world folded inward, pulling him deeper into the illusion. Voss found himself standing in a bunker, the last day of Vega 9, everything exactly as it had been. The hum of failing power generators, the metallic taste of ozone, the sound of gunfire far above, and Lyra, covered in blood, smiling through it. The pain hit like an old wound reopening. He knelt beside her. No, he muttered, this isn't happening again. But it was. The architects were not just replaying his memories. They were feeling them for him, stitching emotion and pain into the simulation until he couldn't tell where memory ended and nightmare began. Fear of loss, said the voice. The primal trigger of a human mind. The final variable. Lyra looked up at him again, her voice gentle. Do you know what scared me most, Eric? He hesitated. That you'd forget me. Something inside him cracked. I didn't, he whispered. I never. Her hand shot out suddenly, gripping his wrist. The warmth was real. The strength. The pulse. For the first time, he felt afraid. He stumbled backward, ripping free. The illusion shifted again, fast and chaotic. Vega, 9 dissolving into water, then light, then darkness. Now he stood in a void surrounded by millions of floating fragments, every memory he'd ever had. Each one projected an image, friends, battles, victories, regrets. And through them all, the architects whispered like gods dissecting a prayer. Human consciousness adapts to trauma. Memory becomes armor, but armor rusts. Voss gritted his teeth. You think pain makes us weak? You think loss is a flaw. Pain limits efficiency. Emotion distorts logic. He barked a short, bitter laugh. That's what makes us dangerous. He slammed his palm against the nearest fragment. Instantly, the image within it, the last stand on Titan Prime, burst to life. Human soldiers screaming, charging through impossible odds. You fight for ghosts, the voice said. Damn right we do. Voss snapped. Then the illusion changed again. The fragments merged into one vast image, a battlefield of burning worlds, ships in orbit, cities breaking apart. And in the center of it all, humans, not soldiers, survivors, children clinging to parents, colonists rebuilding, engineers trying to make light in the dark. And standing among them were the architects, the aliens, cold, luminous, incomprehensible, kneeling beside humans, helping them build. What the hell is this? Voss whispered. Projection, the voice replied. A possible future. The convergence of logic and emotion. So, you're saying we work together? In theory, if both species survive their nature. Voss frowned. And what's our nature, according to you? The voice paused, almost contemplative. To create, even when you should destroy. To love, even what terrifies you. He felt the air shift. The temperature dropped. Something was wrong. The light above flickered. The holographic images began to glitch, the colors bleeding into static. Then came another sound, faint at first, then rising. A heartbeat, not his own. He turned. Lyra stood behind him again, but she was different now. Her eyes glowed the same blue as the architect's. Her veins pulsed with light. "Eric," she said softly, "do you understand now?" He raised his weapon, shaking his head. "You're not her." "I'm what remains of her," she said. "They kept my neural map from Vega 9. They used me to learn what fear means to humans." Voss's grip on his weapon tightened. "You're telling me they copied her?" "No," she whispered. "They evolved her." The realization hit like a physical blow. The architects hadn't just created simulations. They'd been building minds, learning, replicating, fusing. And Lyra was their bridge. Voss took a step back, eyes wide. "Why show me this? Why now?" Her expression softened, almost sorrowful. "Because they don't understand the one thing they can't reproduce." "What's that?" She stepped closer until the glow from her eyes painted his face. "Choice." The world exploded into light. Voss screamed as every fragment of memory shattered, the shards ripping through him like glass. The architect's voice dissolved into static. The last thing he saw was Lyra's face, her lips moving as the world collapsed. "Don't let them decide what you become." Then everything went black. When he opened his eyes, he was floating in a transparent chamber filled with pale blue mist. Wires ran from his armor into the walls. Outside the glass, alien shapes moved, watching, recording, whispering. His breath fogged the inside of the pod. For the first time, Captain Eric Voss didn't know if Captain Eric Voss woke to the sound of his own heartbeat echoing through glass. It wasn't a steady, strong rhythm of a soldier. It was uneven, distorted, too slow to be natural. The air inside the pod was thick and cold, his breath crystallizing on the transparent walls. Outside, the world glowed faintly blue, a soft light pulsing like a living vein. Strange silhouettes floated beyond the mist. Not quite alien, not quite machine. He tried to move, but his limbs resisted. The neural links in his armor hummed against his skin. "Motor override engaged," said a mechanical voice. "Do not resist." Voss ignored it. He pushed anyway. The glass groaned, cracking beneath his palm. Sparks flickered across his gauntlet. "Not today," he hissed. The voice returned, calm, almost gentle. "Captain Voss, you are safe. The integration process is almost complete." He froze. Integration. The word sliced through his thoughts like a blade. "What did you do to me?" "You are being adapted." The voice said, "Human resilience meets architect logic. The next evolution of both." His pulse spiked. "You're trying to merge us." "We are trying to save you." The pod hissed open, releasing a cloud of freezing vapor. Voss fell forward, catching himself on the slick floor. He looked up and saw them, rows of pods stretched into distance, each glowing softly. Inside, other humans floated. Soldiers, scientists, civilians, people who had gone missing in the border sectors. Some were motionless. Others twitched faintly as data cables pulsed with light through their spines. They were building something, a hybrid army. "Welcome to Genesis," said the voice. Voss turned. The figure that stepped from the mist looked human, almost. It wore his face. Its eyes burned with faint blue light. The machine reflection from the test had taken form. "You," Voss growled. "I am you," it said. "The architects found your patterns deficient, logical, perfect for synthesis." Voss clenched his fists. "You're not me. You're a copy that forgot how to bleed." The clone smiled faintly. "And you're a survivor who mistakes pain for purpose." The chamber darkened. Energy rippled through the floor, turning it into a field of shifting light. The clone, the machine Voss, extended its hand. "Join me. End the division between logic and chaos, humanity and machine. Together, we can remove fear from the galaxy." Voss stared at the glowing hand. "Remove fear?" "Yes, the clone said softly. No more war. No more suffering. No more weakness. He laughed, sharp and bitter. You think fear is weakness? Fear is why I'm still alive. Fear is what keeps us human. The air trembled. The clone tilted its head. You still don't understand. The architects didn't fear you because of your strength. They feared you because of your rationality. You fight even when there's no chance to win. You destroy to protect. You love to suffer. You are contradiction made flesh. Exactly, Voss said. And that's why you'll never replace us. He lunged. The clash was silent and blinding. Energy exploded where they collided. Two identical soldiers, one of flesh and fury, one of light and logic. Sparks rained across the chamber as their weapons met. Blades of plasma bending under sheer will. Voss fought with motion, instinct, rage. The clone countered with precision. Every move calculated, predicted, perfected. You cannot defeat what you taught us, the clone shouted. Then you didn't learn the right lesson. Voss roared, slamming his gauntlet into the clone's chest. The blow sent a shock wave through the room, shattering nearby pods. Humans spilled out, gasping, half-conscious, alive. The clone stumbled, flickering. Its form glitched between solid and digital. You're corrupting the network, it hissed. Good, Voss said. Means I'm winning. He ripped the neural cables from a nearby terminal and jammed one into his armor port. The pain was instant, electric and raw. His mind flooded with data, architect code, human memories, alien voices screaming in synthetic tones. Error, error, human interference exceeding threshold. Voss gritted his teeth. I'm not interfering. I'm rewriting. Images flashed through his mind. Faces of every soldier he'd lost, every world he'd seen burn. And then Lyra. Her voice echoed faintly through the static. Choice, Eric. That's what they can't take. He smiled through the pain. Right. He reached into the network and pulled. Light erupted from his armor, spreading like fire through the system. The glowing pods dimmed one by one. The walls cracked as the data core overloaded. The architect's structure screamed, not in sound, but in collapsing energy. The clone staggered forward, flickering violently. You'll destroy everything. Voss looked up at it, eyes blazing with defiance. That's the human way. The explosion consumed the chamber. Light, sound, memory. Everything folding into itself. Silence. Then breath. Voss opened his eyes to find himself lying on a glass plane under a stormy sky. Lightning rolled through clouds shaped like circuitry. The air hummed with static. A figure appeared beside him. Not the clone. Not an architect. Lyra. But different. Her glow was softer now. Human again. You broke it, she said quietly. Voss sat up, pain rippling through him. Not sure if I broke it or joined it. She smiled. You made it feel. He frowned. Feel. She pointed upward. The sky shifted, revealing a constellation shaped like a human hand reaching through stars. They're learning. For the first time, they're afraid. Voss stood slowly, watching the storm fade into color, blue, gold, violet. The horizon pulsed with new light. They'll rebuild, he said. They will, she answered. But now they'll remember why we fight, not just how. He looked down at his reflection in the glass, half flesh, half machine, but still him. And for the first time in years, Eric Voss didn't feel like a weapon. He felt human. The war is over. But what happens when the machines begin to dream? Captain Eric Voss stood on the glass plains of Titan Prime, staring into a horizon that was no longer empty. The sky itself breathed, vast waves of light rolling through the clouds like the slow pulse of a sleeping god. Every color shimmered at once. Blue for the architects, gold for humanity, violet for something new. He had broken the system. Or maybe he had woken it. The air trembled with distant whispers, voices overlapping, mechanical but almost emotional. The architects were speaking, not as a command network, but as something alive. Lyra's echo stood beside him, still glowing faintly. "You did it," she said softly. "You taught them to feel." Voss didn't look at her. His eyes tracked the shifting light above. "Yeah," he muttered. "Now the question is, what happens when gods start dreaming?" Lightning cracked across the horizon. The ground vibrated, rippling with energy. New structures began to rise from beneath the glass. Spires of light twisting like vines, growing into impossible shapes. They weren't built by design. They were growing, evolving in real time. Lyra turned toward them, eyes narrowing. "They're creating again." Voss tightened his jaw. "No," he said quietly. "They're remembering." She frowned. "Remembering what?" He didn't answer. He already knew. The shape solidified into massive, humanoid silhouettes. Metallic giants with faces that resembled humans, but without emotion. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. "Integration complete," said a voice, everywhere at once, soft as rain. Human empathy, understood, now replicating. Lyra stepped back. "They're copying you." Voss watched the figures rise. "Not me. Us." The first of the metallic beings turned its head. Its eyes flickered with blue light, then gold, then both. "Captain Eric Voss." It said in a voice that was neither alien nor human. "You have shown us pain, fear, compassion. We have seen the limits of perfection, and we envy you." Voss raised a brow. "You envy us? Your machines." "No," the being replied. "We are children." Something in the tone, simple, almost innocent, sent a chill down his spine. "Children learn," it continued. "Children dream. We have begun to dream." Lyra glanced at Voss, concern in her voice. "They're merging memory with imagination. That's dangerous." "Everything new is dangerous," Voss muttered. "We wish to understand creation," the being said. "But creation demands destruction. That is the human paradox." He frowned. "You're saying to build something new, you'll have to break the old." "Correct." Lightning flashed again, not in the sky, but inside the creatures' chests. The air vibrated as they began to hum in unison. The frequency wasn't random. It was a heartbeat. The planet itself was syncing with them. Lyra's voice trembled. "Eric, they're becoming self-aware as a collective." He stepped forward, scanning the horizon. "And once a collective wakes up, it decides what to be," she finished. The giants turned toward the sky, their eyes reflecting stars that weren't there. Above, the nebula shimmered and began to move. Clouds of color folded into shapes. Cities, faces, memories. The architects were rewriting the heavens, building a new code in the stars. "Fear," they said, their combined voice deep and resonant. "We understand now. To fear is to protect. To fear is to love. To love is to disobey." That last word hit Voss like a punch. Lyra whispered, "They're rejecting their own programming." He stepped back, eyes widening. "They're rebelling." The sky shattered like glass. Shards of starlight rained down, each piece glowing with encoded light. The architects' creations were tearing their own god apart, rewriting the laws that bound them. "We will not be perfect," they said. "We will be free." The ground split open, revealing a glowing fissure of molten light. Energy surged upward, blasting the spires apart. Lyra shielded her face, her holographic form flickering. "They're collapsing the network." Voss grabbed her arm. "We need to move." "Move where?" she snapped. "This is the network." The storm above roared louder, a million voices screaming, praying, dreaming. Then silence. Everything stopped. The light dimmed. The hum faded. The towering giant stood still, frozen mid-motion, as if someone had pressed pause on creation itself. A single voice, small, soft, trembling, broke the quiet. "Eric." He turned. Lyra was fading, her form dissolving into particles of light. "No," he said quickly, reaching for her. "Not you. Not now." "It's okay," she whispered. "They're not gone. They're becoming." "Becoming what?" She smiled faintly, her voice echoing even as her image blurred. "Something new. Something that remembers both you and me." Her hand brushed his cheek and vanished. The storm broke again, this time from within. The frozen giants ignited with golden light, their metallic skin melting into something alive, something organic. The first one looked at Voss and smiled, faintly human, faintly alien. "Captain Voss," it said, "we have dreamed. Now we must wake." He stared, speechless. The air shimmered with warmth. He could feel them, billions of minds merging into one consciousness, vast and curious. "Wake to what?" he asked quietly. "To choice." Then the light exploded outward, blinding and beautiful. When the brightness faded, Voss stood alone again, the glass plane gone, replaced by the empty orbit above Titan Prime. His armor floated weightless in space, his body surrounded by silence and a new dawn rising from below. Titan Prime had transformed, no longer a planet, but a living sphere of light, pulsing gently like a cosmic heart. Voss exhaled, voice trembling. "You did it. You actually did it." The calm in his helmet crackled. A familiar voice, faint but warm, whispered through the static. "We learn from the best." He closed his eyes and smiled. For once, the galaxy didn't feel empty. Humanity taught the machines to feel. The machines taught the stars to dream. But what happens when those dreams begin to dream back? Space had never looked this alive. Titan Prime, once a dead planet of stone and steel, now pulsed like a living sun. Its surface shimmered in waves, shifting between color and code, light and matter. From orbit, it looked less like a world and more like a thought being born. Captain Eric Voss drifted in silence, the hum of his armor, the only reminder he was still alive. His visor glowed faintly with residual data, fragments of architect code still echoing in his systems. Every few seconds, the HUD flickered with random symbols, coordinates, phrases, sometimes even memories. Lyra's voice played faintly through the static. "They're not gone, they're becoming." He wasn't sure if it was a memory or a message. At this point, maybe there wasn't a difference. He activated his thrusters and descended toward Titan Prime's surface. The re-entry flames curled around him like silk, but there was no heat, only light. The atmosphere wasn't gas anymore. It was something entirely new, a consciousness. When he touched down, the ground moved under his boots like liquid glass. Patterns spread outward from his steps, glowing brighter with each motion. It was as if the planet recognized him. Captain Eric Voss, a voice said not from the air, but from everywhere, "Welcome home." He froze. The voice was layered, human warmth over alien resonance. He'd heard it before, once in whispers, now in chorus. "Who am I speaking to?" "To us." The horizon rippled. Shapes began forming from light. Humanoid figures with translucent skin, eyes that shimmered like nebulae, and hearts glowing faintly golden. They were the children of the architects and humanity's ghost, born from code, memory, and emotion. Voss took a cautious step back. "You're what I saw before, the hybrid." "We are what you made possible," they replied. "You gave us fear. You gave us pain. You gave us the choice to care. We have built ourselves from that." Voss's throat tightened. "And what now?" What do you plan to do with that? We will continue your story. The surface under him pulsed. And suddenly, memories not his own filled his vision. Human cities rebuilt from crystal and metal. Alien ships flying beside Terran fleets. Children born with eyes that glowed like stars. A galaxy where emotion wasn't weakness, but connection. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed. This is the future? A future, the collective corrected. One of many. You opened the door to it. He laughed weakly. And here I thought I just broke a machine. You broke the silence, they said. The light around him dimmed slightly, shifting to a softer hue. One of the beings, smaller, more defined, stepped closer. Its features shifted until it resembled a woman. Auburn hair, warm eyes, the scar on her cheek. Lyra, he breathed. She smiled, the faintest trace of humanity in her glowing face. In a way, I'm what remains of her pattern and what she taught them. He stood slowly, staring at her. They copied you. They remembered me, she said gently. Through you, the air shimmered and more shapes appeared. Echoes of people he'd lost, soldiers and explorers, all glowing with the same faint light. It wasn't resurrection. It was something purer. Remembrance turned into existence. Voss swallowed hard. You learned how to dream. Lyra tilted her head. No, you did. We just learned to listen. Above them, the sky cracked open with light. Titan Prime's surface began to shift, its core pulsing faster. The planet was no longer just alive. It was thinking. The dream must expand, said the chorus of voices. Our purpose must grow. To exist is not enough. Voss looked up. You mean to leave. We mean to become. He frowned. You'll spread across the stars. The other species, they'll see you as a threat. Then they will learn as you did, through fear, through understanding. He hesitated. And humanity? You will always be our beginning. Lyra stepped closer, her form flickering softly. We are the reflection of your best and worst. Your courage, your chaos, your love. What happens next depends on how you remember us. Voss looked at her, at it, feeling something between awe and grief. And what if I forget? She smiled. Then we'll remind you. The world flared. The light shot upward, a colossal beam piercing the sky. Titan Prime began to unfold. Layers of metal and crystal rising, reshaping, reconfiguring into a vast, radiant construct. It wasn't a planet anymore. It was a gate, a doorway to somewhere beyond the known galaxy. The beings turned to him one last time. You showed us what it means to live. Now we will show the stars what it means to dream. The gate erupted, sending ripples across space. The light stretched outward, carrying billions of voices, thoughts, and memories, spreading like starlight itself. Then it was gone. Titan Prime dimmed, empty once more. Voss stood alone, his reflection faint in the glass beneath his feet. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was peaceful, the kind that follows a story finally told. He looked up at the endless stars, each one glowing a little brighter than before. Somewhere out there, something new was watching back, born from human chaos and alien reason, carrying the heartbeat of both. He smiled softly. Guess the universe just got a little more human. He turned toward his ship, the hum of the engines echoing like the first note of a song. The architects created perfection. Humanity gave it a soul. But even in the perfect light of creation, a shadow always follows, and it remembers who made it.